All right, this is a big trade. Actually, this is pretty big. There are 4 players and 2 draft picks getting swapped around between the Colorado Avalanche and the New York Rangers. This show is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Go out there and check out the first link in the description to save some money on your VPN, get some free months, and support this YouTube channel in the process. Colorado, the Avalanche, they tweeted this out earlier this morning. We have acquired defenseman Ryan Lindgren and forward Jimmy Vesey from the New York Rangers in exchange for Calvin Haan and Juuso Parssinen. So, 2 assets for 2 assets, and then if you scroll down you can see some extra draft picks being sent over to the Rangers as well. A 2025 second and a 2025 fourth from Colorado. The Avalanche are also getting unsigned college free agent Hank Kempf. And this is a really interesting addition to the trade itself, but the real meat and potatoes here as to what is being swapped around, it is quite obvious. It is Ryan Lindgren and Jimmy Vesey heading over to Colorado from the New York Rangers. Let's dive into the profiles of each of these guys and why exactly Colorado made this trade. So, starting out with Ryan Lindgren, this is a guy whose name was linked to other NHL teams over the past few months. In particular, I'm thinking about Vancouver, because in all the JT Miller trade talk that we had seen, oh, is it going to be Braden Schneider? Oh, it's going to be Philip Hedl. Oh, it's going to be a first. Oh, it's going to be this and that. And Ryan Lindgren's name was always a part of that conversation. 27-year-old left-handed defenseman, 6 feet, 194, signed on till the end of this season, making $4.5 million. His contract was an expiring UFA, and it's why the Vancouver Canucks were kind of interested in that. They ended up going with Marcus Pettersson from Pittsburgh. They re-signed him, and now that deal is done. But Ryan Lindgren also needs a contract. The salary's not too bad, $4.5 million for a guy who this season was playing 20-plus minutes a night. There were some games where he would reach 22, 23, 24 minutes even, so Lindgren can play a little bit more. He actually has been heating up as of late, 4 points in his last 3 games there, with 2-2 against the Penguins and the Islanders. This was a stint where he was getting more ice time. 22 minutes against Pittsburgh, 24 minutes against the Isles, and he started to produce more, interestingly enough. It's kind of funny because a lot of these games where he does get points, he is playing 20-plus minutes on the night. But aside from that, Lindgren is a heart and soul defender who is on pace for a career season with 27 points in 75 games as the projected pace. He had 19 points in 54 games with the Rangers this season. And a lot of folks are going out there and saying this is kind of what Colorado needed, a heart and soul shot-blocking, defensively minded defenseman who can produce some points here and there. This is the meat and potatoes of the trade from the Colorado point of view. Ryan Lindgren heading over is a very big deal. Now, Jimmy Vesey is also in this trade as well, 31-year-old forward, 6'2", 203, also a contract who is expiring in the offseason. But Vesey this year has 6 points in 33 games played, a far cry from the 26 points in 80 games he had last year and the 25 points he had in 81 games with the Rangers the year before that. He's been a very inconsistent and streaky point producer over the past few years. This was his second stint in New York, after all, after being a 35-point guy in 2018-19. Look at the tour that Jimmy Vesey went from. New York Rangers to Buffalo to Toronto to Vancouver to New Jersey to New York and now to Colorado, all with limited playoff experience just with the New York Rangers. He bounced around to a whole bunch of other teams without making the playoffs or anything, so he's probably going to have a playoff career in his statistical page here later on in the season. Colorado is loading up here for the 2025 Stanley Cup Playoffs. So Lindgren and Vesey are going to be heading over here. They're not the most amazing additions in the world, I will say, but they do help. And I think that is ultimately what Colorado is looking for in this trade. Also, heading over to the Colorado Avalanche, you have prospect defenseman Hank Kempf, 6'2", 201, 22-year-old guy, a left-handed player who was drafted in the 7th round of the 2021 NHL Entry Draft. But for Hank Kempf, He hasn't really been producing too much with Cornell University this season. It seems more like he is a heart and soul, maybe defensively minded shutdown defender. I haven't watched many Cornell University games, to be honest, so I wouldn't be able to tell you how Hank Kempf goes out there and plays. But yeah, I mean, I guess he is just a throw-in. If Colorado sees something they like in this guy, then okay, I mean, you could take your chance, right? I mean, it's not really like this guy has the most attractive profile as a defender. So we'll see if Hank Kempf ultimately finds a way to get himself into a National Hockey League system or an AHL system and look reasonably okay. But as a 7th round pick, he's a throw in here. We can't really have too high of an expectation for Hank Kempf. Let's talk about the assets going over to the New York Rangers, though. Calvin Haan, not really as good as Ryan Lindgren. And that's not saying much, I would say. Lindgren, while a lot of people will like to hate on him, Calvin Haan, I think, is a worse defender. He's a little bit older. He is also on an expiring contract, making $800,000 a year. The Rangers are getting a body to fill in that roster spot from the Ryan Lindgren absence. He had 7 points in 44 games played this season with Colorado, so not really great. Calvin Haan does have some experience in the playoffs, though, varied between the Islanders and the Chicago Blackhawks and the Lightning. Yeah, guess what? Once upon a time, the Chicago Blackhawks were good enough to make the playoffs. That was a weird year, though, in 2019-20 in the bubble season. Very, very strange. But aside from that, the Rangers are also getting Juuso Parssinen, a player that I've actually been a pretty big fan of over the past few years. Parssinen is 24 years old, 6'3", 212, as a forward drafted in the 7th round in the 2019 draft. I know that we were just saying a few minutes ago for Hank Kempf that 7th round picks rarely make the NHL, but I guess there's a direct contradiction there because Juuso Parssinen has had NHL time this season with both Nashville and Colorado. This is not the first time we are talking about Parssinen. We did make a video about him getting traded earlier in the year from Nashville to Colorado, but ultimately he's now going over to New York, so this will be a pretty big tour for the young 24-year-old Finn. Let's take a look at some extra tweets and extra replies to this conversation. Cervelli went out there and said, this, the 2nd round pick that the Rangers are receiving in the Ryan Lindgren trade with the Colorado Avalanche is the better of Carolina's or the Rangers' own pick back. What a weirdly written sentence, I'm not gonna lie. The 2nd round pick NYR are receiving in a Ryan Lindgren deal with Go Avs Go is better of Carolina's or Rangers' own pick back. What does own pick back mean? Ultimately, the Rangers felt they couldn't let their own UFAs walk for nothing the way this season has gone. And they shed Ryan Lindgren's $4.5 million a year. Finally, a smart decision by Drury. The Avs got fleeced. Yeah, you can kind of see where a lot of people's overall perspective is when it comes to talking about Ryan Lindgren. This is another tweet from Sarah Bailey. The Go Avs Go trade for Ryan Lindgren and Jimmy Vesey is another branch of the Mikko Rantanen trade tree, using either the 2nd in the deal itself or the benefit of additional 2nd round pick in their arsenal. Yeah, they got absolutely fleeced by the New York Rangers. And it's interesting because there are some replies, like if we go over here to the subreddit, this was posted onto the page earlier when the trade was made. You can see like, oh, Lindgren sacrificed his body multiple times for New York over the years. The streets won't forget his commitment level. Just the guy RD needs right now. Sounds like he's been having a rough season. Hopefully that's just the Rangers thing and being in Colorado helps turn it around, Kenny Ketterman says. Avalanche front office has been cooking with the moves this year. No fear. Good luck, boys. I am very okay with this. Same, it seems like a different environment trade, a good old-fashioned hockey trade. Tell me how to feel. Not much for not much. This seems very bad for the Rangers. It looks like they're giving up for the season and trying to keep a hold of their 1st round pick. And Complexity says, I disagree. Ryan Lindgren has been mostly negative on the ice for us, and VC is a 4th liner, so selling them for a couple of picks while they have replacements for them makes sense. Selling some upcoming UFAs definitely isn't giving up for this season. So at the end of the day, Colorado gets the assets they want in trying to build for the playoffs this year. New York gets some draft picks and they shed away guys that they probably were going to lose anyway, and I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Ryan Lindgren, Jimmy Vesey, and Hank Kempf going over to Colorado in exchange for Calvin DeHaan, Juuso Parssinen, a 2025 second, and a 2025 fourth? I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.